In the following game, the two players achieved the material imbalance that we are discussing straight from the opening. Kramnik against Ivanchuk from the game in 1997. After knight f3, knight f6, c4, c6, everything started with anti-Grunfeld. Knight c3, d5, cd5. Sorry, not cd5, but queen a4 check. Bishop d7, queen b3, dc4, queen c4, bishop g7. No, first knight c6, d4, bishop g7, e4, castles, and e5. And Ivanchuk played the move bishop e6 in this situation, so he's offering to his opponent to take 3 light pieces, but in return he wants to take the queen and some pawns too. It's still a playable line. Most of the people, even nowadays, people are playing it. So after e takes f6, they taking on c4, pawn takes on g7, king takes on g7, bishop c4, knight d4, knight d4, queen takes d4. All of this is happening by force, and this is the position of an interest. Black is having a queen and 2 pawns for the light pieces. So technically speaking, he should be better because 9 plus 2 is 11 pawns, and white has only 9 pawns for that, and this should be a really huge advantage for black. But in reality, the stronger players prefer to play this with the white pieces. Even though Ivanchuk have tried it in this game, he didn't try it further on. The only one who tried it was Fiedler, famous specialist of the Grunfeld defense, but know that he has tried it in blitz, not in real chess. So I guess that deep inside himself, he has the fear of playing against the 3 light pieces, even though he has the 2 pawns in this situation. This game continued with rook a d8, white castled, and queen e5 was the reply by Ivanchuk. The other move to c5, after which most likely white is going to develop himself with rook e1, and b6 would be answered a4 followed by a5. White would be looking for targets for his pieces to start to attack. After a5, he will be opening the rook, and that rook can come after that on a6, on a7, and the pawn on b6 could be one of the targets. So queen e5. On the other hand, it's very hard to say what exactly is black doing in this situation, which pawns is he advancing, where and why. One thing is for sure, he should refrain from advancing the pawns on the king side, because after that his king would be weak. And this is actually what Kramnik is trying to provoke. He's trying to provoke these pawns to come out and to weaken the king. Bishop b3, first of all, rook d7, rook e1. An useful move, and also it is creating concrete threats. Bishop, light squared bishop somewhere, followed by discovered attack, and the king and the queen will be gone. Queen a5 was played in this game. Now e3, rook f to d8. Black is doing the most natural moves. The other thing that he can do is c6 to try to take some squares from the light pieces, but then after the possible b4, queen c7 and rook c1, white is starting to concretely create threats. Knight b5 is one of them, maybe knight a4, and knight c5, he's bringing his pieces closer and closer to the enemy camp. And after a possible queen b8, knight e4, black is completely on the defensive. Even though he has the queen, just have a look where the queen is at the moment. It is not attacking a single thing, and it is defending only the pawn on a7, which is not the kind of a job that the queen is used to. Well, rook f d8 was answered in a very nice way. Bishop g4. Bishop g4 is provoking weaknesses. It is provoking the move e5, and that move was actually played in the game. As rook d3 here would be answered with b4, when suddenly the queen, which is such a mighty piece, doesn't really have a square way to go. Just have a look. These 2 squares are attacked. This one is protected. This one is protected by the bishop. These 2 are protected by the knight. Queen e5 is available, but not good because of bishop h6 discovered attack when the queen is gone. And queen a6 is losing the exchange after bishop e2. And this is also not great. rook and two light pieces are usually much better than the queen, and in that case this is not an exception. So therefore rook d3 is not great. Ivanchuk played f5. He's weakening now the king, and after bishop f3 white is already creating serious problems to his opponent. Say for instance c6 here would be answered bishop f4. Bishop is moving to e5, or maybe the rook wants to come on e5 on many occasions, and a move like king f6 would be answered b4, after which white is dominating all over the board. His advantage is indisputable in that case. Then, if this is strategically very difficult for black, the last thing that he can do, and which he tried in the game after the move bishop f3, was e5. That's also a bit scary for the white pieces. The pawns are seemingly very aggressive, but in reality they want to stay in to stand where they are at the moment. They don't want to go any further, not to be lost and not to discover the king. And here Kramnik went bishop g5, which allowed to his opponent a chance to survive after e4, bishop e2, and c6. Strong move. He's giving part of the material, but he manages to create good control of the position. His pawns are placed in a nice way to fight this bishop. And the game was a draw later after rook e d1, b5, taking all the squares from the white pieces, rook d1, queen e6, g3, a5. Materially white cannot complain, but black also created a lot of counterplay with his pawns. And after rook d3, f2, king takes f2, queen e5, bishop f3, and check. And they have decided to call it a day. Here they agreed to draw. Instead of this, instead of the move bishop b2, instead of the move bishop g5, the logical continuation would have been simply to take the pawn on b7, and that would be the chance for white to get big advantage. After bishop takes b7, a possible f4 would be answered with b4. We know this familiar trick when the small pieces are taking the big fish. The queen on a5 is trapped. Everything is controlled. Also the square, all of them under control. The queen has nowhere to go. And if after bishop b7, black tries first to play c5, then after bishop c6, Anand gave a couple of lines to prove white's advantage here. One is rook d6, after which rook b5, a6, and bishop f1 is leading to a very nice position for white. He is about to double the rooks and start taking the weak pawns, and most likely he is going to win this. His weaknesses cannot be defended by the heavy pieces, as white can always put as many of his pieces to attack them, always one more than the opponent. And in this line after bishop c6, if black tries to counterattack with f4, then the idea is simply to take on d7, of course, first of all, then to move back the bishop, and c4 would be answered simply h3, opening here for the king, and then the idea is to finish the development with rook e2, bishop d2, and bring over the other rook, and once again to start attacking the weaknesses. That line was suggested by Anand, who claimed that white's position is won. It's funny that the computers consider this to be maybe even better for black, but in reality it's impossible to defend. Little by little the weaknesses will fall one by one, and we already have discussed this when the light pieces, and here also the rooks, are piling against one of the weaknesses. There is nothing that the side with the major pieces can do to defend it.